Hello, everyone. Welcome to DnDTime Talks, the show where we discuss all things Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Pete.
I'm Jeremy.
Um, Jeremy, how are you doing?
Pete, I just want it to be real fast right there. I don't know. I'm doing okay. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I see. Thank you very much to Reflected 10-8. I'm just looking over at chat now. For subscribing for 11 months in a row, almost a
My
full year.
God. How has
Jeremy,
it been almost a year? Oh, no, Pete, we've been slacking.
We're so close. And also, it says our topic is chromatic dragons. And
oh, yeah. That's because we're talking about chromatic scales.
Wait, excellent point. The chromatic dragon is actually a variant dragon, which has worshipped the chromatic scale and learned it in its entirety. It can name every note in the chromatic scale.
Yeah, exactly. Chromatic scales. Get it? Because dragons have scales? And guys, come on. I'm a genius. This is a good save.
That was pretty good. Yes, that's what we're going to be doing tonight. And I'm excited to talk about music. I don't know if this topic will necessarily go quite as long as some of our past ones, but when we finish up, we might also talk a little bit. If y'all have questions about the new shop and stuff like that, we'll be doing that tonight. So as we're going through, don't forget to ask us questions in chat, or if you want us at the end, we do our new segment, Ask Pete and Jeremy, which you can find on Discord. There's the little chat there on Discord where you can ask us any questions, which we'll answer at the end of the stream.
Well, what I'm gonna do here, guys, is while we're going through the conversation, I'm gonna be keeping an eye on the chat, and I'm gonna be copying out some of your questions so that we can answer them at the end. That way, we don't have to go into the Ask Pete and Jeremy now. Otherwise, I don't know. It's just gonna be there's too much jumping back and forth. Anyway.
And Bionic Shiva has a question right now, which I can answer. Peter, you starting up next Tuesday with more music?
I copied that one.
Oh.
Go ahead, Pete.
I'll just answer. I won't do any more of them, but I'll answer this one now because we haven't gotten started yet. The answer is might not be next Tuesday. It might be one after, but either the next one or the following one, and we're going to be doing something on that Tuesday. Don't know what it is yet, and that's why I need to make sure there's extra weeks because there's a lot going on in DnDTime right now.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk more about all about that, what's going on in DnDTime at the end. But Indeed. For now, let's talk about today's topic, which is something that I know we do this all the time in DnDTime, and I know, Pete, this is very near and dear to you in your home games, and that's going to be using music, which is it's a much smaller topic than I think most of our other... Well, it's weird because it's small in terms of its relation to D&D, but talking about music is one of the biggest topics you could possibly have. So It's a weird, small, but big. We're going to be discussing how to use music and other sorts of media to kind of enhance your game experience and to make your adventures even more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Music is just such a big part of how we plan and run our games in DnDTime. We spend a lot of time, Jeremy and I, discussing like what tracks and stuff that we're going to use to kind of back up our games and making those kind of choices. I myself as well, I know Jeremy to a degree less so, but I know you still do it in your home games as well. But I really spend a lot of time on music in my home games too. And you can really add so much flair. Can really like let your players become immersed in a lot of the moments that you're creating in your games, and it's really fun. And we'll talk about some other ways to kind of boost that experience as well, aside from music, because certainly there's other things you can do via minis and the more kind of physical aspect of the game and stuff like that. But one of the great things about music is we're going to start talking about why is music so great. One of the things about music is that it's free. This is just a thing. If you have access to a computer or the internet, you can just have music in your game without any question.
Exactly. YouTube is a super easy way to just listen to literally anything. Spotify is also very good for folks who maybe don't have quite the bandwidth on their phones to handle YouTube videos all the time. But yeah, I mean, if it exists, you can probably find it on one of those two services. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, we really like music as a way of kind of conveying emotion a lot more clearly than words often. Like, if you think of the sad violin, right? Da, na, 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 na. You know what that sound is. You know it, you feel it, and if you hear it, you'd be like, "Oh, that's supposed to be sad." Right? It would just immediately pull that connection. Just playing a song that's in a minor key, like that's in a minor key, can help to convey that sadness more than just saying everyone around you is sad, because that's just, it's so impassionate. Where
Yes,
the music
absolutely.
is quite the opposite.
It adds that kind of context, and I guess the word I didn't want was context. What I wanted was texture. It adds
Mm,
that sort of texture to the words that you're saying, and puts people in a mindset where, um, and I think this is true for most individuals. I think people are a lot more inclined to get emotional and get kind of really invested in a story in, say, like a movie theater. It's very rare that you'll see your players kind of cry around, you know, the table at a D&D game, but a lot of the same people will get very like choked up and teary-eyed when they're playing maybe a video game that comes to a dramatic conclusion, or watching any kind of other form of media, or maybe just listening to a song they love. And music is one of the primary ways that kind of conveys that emotional impact. And that applies not just to, like sadness is a very kind of clear one that's easier to convey with music, but that can be the emotional impact of anything in your games. When your dramatic villain arrives for the first time and crashes down into the scene, and plunges the world into chaos. When you say that, when you just say the villain crashes down and buildings begin to fall, without, for me at least, without Mozart's Dies Irae playing in the background, or O Fortuna, or whatever epic dramatic song that you have decided to kind of link up to this in your mind and then choose to play, it doesn't carry that same weight. It doesn't have the heft behind the punch. The words are flat, um, and
well,
that's not
precisely.
necessarily true. And you can do more things in your own language to spruce it up, but music definitely makes it easier.
Well, exactly, right? A picture says 1,000 words. Music also says 1,000 words, right? You
Yeah.
hear that first, "Yeah," like the
Ya da
Gregorian, just
da
kind of, not
da.
Gregorian chant, but
Ya da da
yeah,
da.
exactly, right? The drama is there, the intensity's there. And even before that, right, everyone thinks of the obvious, which is my epic battle music. I'm sure more than one of you have a playlist called epic battle music. Uh, and sad loss music. But think about the very beginning of the Lord of the Rings movies. You come in, the camera pans in over the Shire, and it's this peaceful, idyllic place, and it looks beautiful. But if you go on YouTube and start The Lord of the Rings, and you play that and you mute it and you don't listen to any music, it's just a camera looking at a bunch of grass. And it doesn't have that, like, that depth to it, right? You can describe that grass. And if you've ever read Tolkien, he describes the shit out of it. But
Yes, yes, he does.
without the music, the In Dreams is the name of the track there, the just relaxing, peaceful, idyllic piano, right? It doesn't have that same feeling, right? It doesn't convey that same hope, right? That same I guess country joy,
And I'm
or a
so glad,
countryside.
Jeremy, that you brought up specifically the Lord of the Rings movie and the music in it.
It's because
Uh,
that's where everyone. I mean, everyone knows that. It's excellent.
because specifically, I think that's a great transition to talk about something that you can start to do in your games. And when you use music, I mean, there's just the simple kind of approach, and what a lot of DMs do with music, and I think it's a perfectly fine way to run. Um, Me and Jer were talking about this earlier. Matt Mercer does this. A lot of DMs just
Mhm.
kind of will have a few tracks that they play in the background, and they have a couple for battle, a couple for non-battle music, just to kind of keep some noise in the background, and that can be helpful. It helps fill the air. It prevents, if there's any kind of moments of silence, it doesn't feel like awkward because they have this thing filling in the gap while people are taking notes on their character sheets or thinking about what they want to do in their turn. Um, but if you want to start to get a little bit fancier and really start to have some impact, you can do something that the Lord of the Rings score does, I think, better than any other modern film score, at least that I personally am familiar with. And that is a composer technique called leitmotif, or you could also refer to it as, theming things. Um, and what that means when I say the term layout motif, it's a technique in kind of writing music that you intend to use to tell a story. You will use different melodies and associate them with different ideas in the story. So, like Jeremy was just talking about, with that kind of when it comes into the Shire and it plays that idyllic kind of Hobbit music, and you hear the do 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 do, it teaches you to associate that melody with peace and with hobbits and this
Mhm.
beautiful home and the Shire. And you can do that same thing with characters and ideas in your games, and then use that kind of later on.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Those kind of things can really help to nail home certain tones, especially if your characters like are visiting somewhere that they haven't been before and they don't really know what to expect, and you just kind of always have your background music going. You just kind of switch over to, oh, you know what? I'm going to play this track because it's a track I play every time they go back to that little tavern they like. And as you're describing the bustling city, right, that they've just arrived at, they immediately have these feelings, right, that they connect to it, and they might not realize it's because of the music. Maybe they do though, and you can help to guide, right, their thoughts and those kind of. And you can
Um,
apply this to anything, like locations, NPCs, or just emotions, right?
mhm. And what becomes great is once you have begun to set up these different themes and you've created these kind of subconscious connections with music and ideas in players' minds, you can really start to play on those and use them in interesting ways. For example, maybe you have this kind of you have a city that's very chaotic and busy, and for that you've chosen a theme that's kind of wild. It has a lot of drums. It's very up tempo, and the players visit this city. They learn to associate this theme with walking through the streets of this city, and then maybe later on they're in the jungle and a group of adventurers that's hunting like the same creature as them jumps out and begins joining in the battle with them, and then you play the same music and the players associate it with the city, and you've now kind of created a connection with these new characters that have come up and their place of origin. Like, oh, these people are from this other fantasy city that we went to in the past. Like we understand a little bit about who they are just from these like not even discussed clues that you've given, just by like again bringing up these kind of subconscious images in your mind. A character in disguise, you could even go that far with it, where the players get a familiar vibe of a particular cloaked individual that hasn't revealed themselves yet, and it's an old friend that they've met countless times, and even though they don't know it and they haven't seen it, they've started to kind of suspect something because of that like familiar melody that's now playing in the background because you established that prior.
Yeah, and playing off of these kind of subconscious cinematic signals, right, with the music. That's really how to up your game with music.
Yeah.
Like Pete, when I was saying, you can take the Matt Mercer approach, which is still great, and make a couple playlists that have different kind of tones, and just have it there. I think that absolutely helps no matter what. Um, but if you have a little bit of just ambient background sound for like a medieval city, like we use a lot in D&D time when people visit Central City, or a bustling kind of coastal area, right? And you can hear the ships in the water and by a dock that we use down in the Crimson Coast. Those kind
Mhm.
of things can really help to fill in a lot of the gap. And especially if your players are less comfortable role playing, those kind of things I feel like really provide an opening because it just
Yeah,
feels correct talking in a character's voice when the world around you is mimicking the world you're playing in, and that you
absolutely.
physically hear the sounds that your character is supposed to. So
Um,
even, up the game, get these motifs, weave them in creative ways, and write subplots to your plots that only people would know if they were paying particular attention to the music.
and that's
And
a
if you
thing
want,
that I personally like to do a
I know
lot.
Pete loves that.
um, and we do it in D&D time too. Jeremy does it in D&D time as well. I, for one, like a theme that I use to represent the dump is the song. morning mood, which is that da 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 da, which I picked one for the kind of ironic contrast of like the horrible smell, and then like the really beautiful springtime music. But when say like the Trash King or any other kind of character from the dump becomes kind of prominent in the scene, I'll use that. Jeremy, Bill.
Oh yeah. Well, that's just a theme for a character. I guess if you're ever in an adventure with me and you begin to hear the like ode to joy line, you know what's about to happen.
You know that Bill the Space Whale.
Bill the Space Whale. Gosh.
Just I can already picture just now, even above the clouds, you just start to hear the da, 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 da. And you know that Bill will be there soon to destroy whatever it is because he's massive and cannot be stopped.
He doesn't destroy; he just eats. Doesn't mean it's gone. Pete.
They're just one with Bill.
Yeah,
which I would call destroy. That's an argument for another time.
Let's talk about like why you're kind of doing this, right? What kind of impact you're going for when it comes to using music in your game, right? So like any tool that you're going to use the DM, right? You have battle maps, maybe you have minis, maybe you have little props, right? You're not going to impress your players every single week after week with music. You can try, but you really have to be spectacular to blow someone away every week because eventually people become accustomed to certain things. They have expectations.
Yes.
And so one of the things that we recommend is it's important to have a mix of different music, right? Save your really dramatic tracks for really dramatic moments.
Mm-hmm.
You have O Fortuna, right? Very, very classic piece. If you're not familiar with it, check it out on YouTube. Or anywhere. It is one of the most dramatic pieces of all time. Yeah, I'm just going to say that. I had to think about it. Yeah, no, it is.
No, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and using that when an owl bear attacks you and is a random encounter in the forest is a lot different than when the big bad murders one of the player characters who's unconscious and they're dead. Right? One is a lot more dramatic than the other. No matter how scary that owl bear is, they're probably not going to die to it unless they really screw up. And I feel like keeping those tracks for their best moments is what really can keep their impact, right? Keep that impact fresh and powerful. But yeah, I think you were going to say exactly what I'm thinking now. So go ahead, Pete.
I was thinking in the same way. I could picture that same track, O Fortuna. You could come up with an equally large amount of impact with it when the players get attacked by like the singular small goblin on the street who decides to like throw a slingshot at them, and then just
the ironic drama. Yeah, exactly.
The ironic drama, and you can create like really funny situations like that. Like the players taking this small threat. It implies that this small threat is so much more serious than it is, which would be really funny, I think, for most players if you kind of set that up. And also, it's interesting. It keeps players engaged. It refocuses attention on the moment because it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most players and just people in general, when playing D&D, it's a very like focused game, and little things that are just kind of like interesting and tricks and these kind of like almost sideshow attractions, because that's what music is in a lot of cases. Smoke and mirrors, it's production value, it's dazzle. It's not important to the substance of the game, but it keeps your players, reminds them that they're playing D&D, keeps them focused on what's going on.
Absolutely. And man, one of the things I mentioned in chat, right, sort of saying kind of like boss battle music, right? Save your boss battle music for the boss battle. In D&D time, every time that we have a new mid-tier boss battle, we try to have a brand new track just for that battle. And it usually becomes a staple as in our kind of rotation of music. But we try every time there's a new myth boss battle to have a brand new track that we've not used before just for the battle. And it's hard. It can be very hard because we're stuck with Creative Commons only.
Yeah,
if we could do anything, that would be excellent.
That'd be a whole other thing. But yeah, there was the Wild Bear. It was one of my favorite. The Bitter Sisters, when we first played that violin track, I remember just reading in chat as we first dropped that track, so many people were like, "Oh, this music is so perfect for
Oh,
what's
right,
happening
it's
right now."
excellent.
Which, for one thing, it was not to like pat ourselves on the back. It was just really right for a couple of witches. It sounded like two witches
Mhm.
coming at you and trying to curse you or whatever it is that witches are going to do to you. But that feels really good, and it can create a lot of impact and immersion. Um, yeah,
I
absolutely.
I agree.
Um, so another thing that you can do to kind of mix things around, because you'll save your big tracks for when you want them, but you can also consider, if you're playing the same kind of like medieval fantasy music, a lot of like pipes and harpsichord and violin strings, orchestral stuff. Maybe when they go to a new area, switch up the genre on them, find a whole new territory of music to play. Um, maybe they're going into kind of a very swampy region, and you trade out your usual kind of, you know, flute fantasy background walking music for some slide rule guitars and some really like kind of like bluegrass and bayou music to suit the music culturally that you associate with areas that have that music in our world. Because when I think of say the Louisiana Bayou in America, I associate that with like jazz and bluegrass, this like kind of very specific style of music. And your players likely will as well. And that's another way to kind of create that immersion and create these kind of like dynamic regions with music and soundscapes.
And the key to these things is consistency.
Yep.
If you're going to use this kind of slide guitar, bow, 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 or banjo country music
Yeah,
in a
banjo.
swamp, use it. Don't have that one day and then the next day have it be I don't know, Metallica, and then the next day have it. I recommend trying to be consistent with that stuff. Also, thank you, Ingram9, for your subscription. It's good for to
Well,
see
thank
you
you
back,
so
bud.
much. Hello.
Thank you for your support. But what I was saying, keeping keeping that stuff consistent is what helps to really ingrain it. People won't identify that track with that place unless you regularly use that track or that kind of music for that place. So keep that in mind as well. You can't build these associations if you don't, well, build the associations over time. Um,
And there's a lot of other little kind of like tricksy stuff that you can find if you just do a couple of cursory like Google
mhm.
searches online. You can find sound effects that go with different creatures. You can get like really good roars for different monsters. You can find various just weird noises that are meant to sound like magic, which you can use for when players cast a certain spell or your villain casts a certain spell. And those are the kind of stuffs that those things I think more so than music. That stuff can be a little bit gimmicky, but it is fun to kind of toss that in every once in a while if it's a really important moment, and begin to kind of like build the environment that you're going to be in with sound effects and with music. And I mean, these are just we're starting to move in, I guess, principles of just sound design in general, which is a whole thing that I personally am very interested in. That's just like something I'm kind of passionate about myself. But
Yeah, and at the same time, some people don't care if music has vocals. Like I said, Metallica earlier. I wouldn't ever use Metallica in any of my games, even as like just a quiet background music, because it, well, it's got words, it's vocal,
yeah, it
and
draws a little bit more
that
attention.
bothers me. That doesn't bother everyone, and so that's a matter of preference at that point. If there's something in the music that distracts, then the music is bad for what you're
Yeah.
doing. If the music simply adds, that's good. And an important thing there is also, actually we're gonna get to this in a minute, but talking about when to really use kind of your music, right? You don't want to just use it to um, you can't force a feeling by just playing a song. If
Yeah,
everyone's standing
absolutely.
around confused and you just play dramatic music, they're just going to be more confused. They're not going to quite get it. Use it to emphasize and empower existing feelings
Yeah,
rather than try and force
absolutely.
new ones.
I think it was Hans Zimmer who does the Pirates of the Caribbean score. I recently heard an interview with him where he said something that I thought was really just a brilliant and profound quote.
Hmm.
Music does not tell you what to feel; it gives you the ability to feel. It allows and I'm paraphrasing a bit, but it allows humans like the capacity to feel. So you can't rely just on music to tell
Uh,
your story. You still need to tell a compelling story and let the music be the kind of spotlight on that.
And speaking of which, I see Ingram has a question in chat. Have you ever used specific music to create an adventure like a D&D musical? Oh man, I've had a musical adventure for D&D time in the back of my head for months, for almost a year probably at this point.
I think we've talked about it a couple of times.
Yeah, they're just hard, right? Because with a musical, you really want to focus on those motifs, right? You really need to have those kind of recurring, I feel like, and fitting flow of the music, um,
And
with maybe some repeating themes.
if we're gonna do it as like an adventure in D&D time, it would have to be like sort of this like improvisational thing. And there's also like the worry of like we don't want to like put people on the spot and make them sing.
I
Uh,
kind of do, but that's not the
yeah,
point.
she
It
was
would
like the
have to be
rhyme
people
slime.
we know. Yeah.
The rhyme slime is a bit like that. Yeah, that's like the closest I think we can get. But maybe someday there'll be a musical D&D time episode. It might just be me and Jeremy.
Be very weird.
It would be extremely weird, but it would also be incredible if we somehow pulled that off. Um, so, what are some other cool things you can do with music? And a lot of what we're talking about now, we kind of covered the core stuff. Just some like tricks, and these are things that like I have learned or Jeremy has learned from our own like experience doing so. But you
Mhm.
can do some cool stuff once you really start to think about like how people interpret the things that they hear. And I think a good example of this is maybe they're having a conversation with an individual in a shop, and then just very lightly in the background, they're just talking in a shop. There's nothing all that kind of off about it. But then you just play some subtle strings or something along that line in the background, or just some very low kind of minor chords, and find a track that's just tense and ominous is what I'm getting at. Um, and then your players are going to be like, well, I didn't know that there was anything weird going on here, but now the just like in a horror movie when you hear the strings come in, and you
Mhm.
know that the killer is somewhere like creeping up on you, your players will get that exact same vibe, but in real life, where they're like, no, there's something wrong here, I can tell because the music's scary. And they'll start looking around for what's wrong without you having to say anything. I've done that like more than once, and it has worked. um, in the same way, Jeremy, I remember in one of your delves, you had that kind of like clock on the mantelpiece. Do you remember that sound effect?
Oh yeah.
Um, and that was a really cool. I don't know if this was. Did you do that on purpose? Intentionally make the put the clock in
Oh yeah.
with the. Okay, yeah, cool. I thought that was a really cool trick. Do you want to talk about it?
I mean, I just wanted to put it in there because it was obnoxious. It was just always there. You couldn't miss it, and you had to go to it.
Yeah. It was just a clock on the mantelpiece that was just making this ever kind of present ticking noise, and the clock held
I
a
never even
key.
described. I think I described the clock once. I
You mentioned that
briefly
there was a
mentioned
clock,
it.
um, but you did a good job also of when you said the word clock, you triggered the music at the same time, the sound effect for the clock ticking,
Hmm.
and uh, that just kind of cemented it. Like as you said the word clock, you were in control of the world because the clock started in my head. And I
Exactly.
went and destroyed the clock because I just got so frustrated listening to the sound of this ticking clock. It was just like bothering the hell out of me for 15 minutes, and I wanted just him to stop playing the sound effect. And it was like part of the adventure. I thought that was like a really creative trick, and I've used it since, and it worked again on the people that I used it on, um, in the precisely the same way. So there's just lots of little things you can do. Um,
Yeah. No, I agree. I love that. It's a nice little, if you can lure someone, because there's no reason why a player would immediately suspect, oh, there's something in the clock, except for the noise and the ticking. You're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna destroy the clock. And then it's like, oh wow, I was supposed to destroy the clock. Oh cool. All right, I see
um,
what you did there.
I didn't like. It was just kind of one of those things where it's like I didn't care about the clock at all. I didn't like care about like going into and looking at it. I just genuinely wanted to not hear the noise anymore, and then it was gone.
Oh, the heartbeat from the Crazy Room Delve. Yeah, right. Heartbeats are another one
Yep.
that get people, or just a creaking of wood and maybe like wind, right? Just a little bit of wind and a creaky floorboard sound every 15
Um,
seconds or something. That fucking gets people.
oh yeah,
That wigs you out.
that can really pull people in.
But
In the same regard, you can find a ton of that kind of stuff online.
oh yeah, oh yeah, tons of it. It's ton of it's free, um, free for even like Pete and I's commercial use here.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can find it all over the place. Tons of it on YouTube for your home game. But one of the things that's great about using music is when you don't use music.
Oh yeah.
When players are used to a sound and they're expecting a sound and there's just nothing, that's a jarring and unsettling thing in its own right. And
I've told you the story about my silence spell, right, Jeremy?
no, I don't believe so.
Oh, this was one of my most proud personal DM moments of all time, where I was playing with a group and the player took the silence spell and people made fun of him because they thought it was a bad spell, which it's not, but he wasn't using it in the way that was the way that it's good, which is blocking spellcasters from casting spells. So it was kind of a bad spell, but he was new to the game or whatever, and people, oh man, that's lame. Why would you take silence? And at one point he cast it, and I used that moment because I always have like the sound of the forest that they were in the background, the chirping of birds. As
Hmm.
he cast the silence spell, I just kind of brought my voice down very low to kind of pull everyone in and make them pay attention for a second, and then right when I said the word, right when he kind of like cast a silence, I said, "And you snap your fingers and then silence," and I cut off the bird sound effect, and
Yeah,
we were
right.
just hanging. Everyone's just kind of hanging in this moment of nothing, and it was like for a brief moment, the room had the silence spell cast on it, and it was absolutely radical.
It's like if you've got players that get distracted with their phones, using music in this kind of engaging way can really help to keep them interested even when they're not doing something.
Yeah,
And exactly the way Pete was saying, in that moment, the entire room was silent.
yeah.
And that
It was the spell.
it's a magic in its own right. But in the real world, I mean, I was thinking the exact same. I was thinking kind of the opposite situation, right? You've been traveling through the woods for the last couple of days in the adventure. You've had a couple of maybe encounters. You've gone foraging, X, Y, or Z, and there's the birds have been playing the whole time, and then you just kind of slowly fade the birds out, and the player's like, "What's going on? Are
That's
we out of the forest?" It's like,
that's cool.
"No, you're still in the forest. What happened to the birds? You don't know what happened to the birds. Just kind of stopped at some point." And then everyone's like, "Oh fuck. Oh no." Right? Those kind of things can really play with people. And it's cool because it's helping to emphasize, right, these feelings. In that case, it's
Mm,
actually creating, which is hard to do well, but
yeah.
it's cool. It's really powerful as a tool
When
when
it
you're
works, it's incredible.
absolutely.
Um, and
So yeah.
we spent a lot of time talking about music, but there's a lot of other things that you can do, because everyone's going to interact with your game differently. There's going to be a lot of people that you play with that the music doesn't mean anything to them. They don't care about the music. They're more kind of visual learners, just as there's different styles. Maybe they're more like kinetic learners, and the music doesn't do anything for them. And there's other ways to interact with those players. Like I said at the beginning, I don't know if we want to spend a ton of time on this because a lot of these kind of tricks, the more physical objects and building great maps and stuff like that. That is a work of patience, of personal skill, and of having a good amount of money to spend if you want to really invest in some of like the top line gear.
Or
Um,
just time. But yeah.
yeah, time as well. Music also is another. That's another great thing about music is that it's really not that hard and time consuming to set up a little
Yeah.
soundtrack for your session. Takes me who's been doing it for a while and kind of knows what tracks I want at a given time. Maybe like an extra 20 minutes on my game prep to know what
Yeah.
songs I'm going to play,
Pretty much.
unless there's something really fancy. But yeah, that's another reason why you should use music in your games. But other things that you can do. There's a lot of little things that you can do for players. Um, things like making item cards when they find items. It is extremely satisfying
Oh yeah.
as a player, like when they find something, and they're like, "Is this like I don't know? I want to see if it's magic. It's definitely magic. Oh, I cast identify on it, and then you just hand them a piece of paper that says everything it is. It's
So
like,
rewarding.
oh, it feels like you're getting the item. It like feels like you might as well have been handed a sword instead of a piece of paper that says what a sword does on it. Um,
Hmm.
in the
No, I
same
agree.
way, I don't know if you ever do any of these, Jeremy. I've done a lot of like written letters for players in games. I've done I'll sometimes stain a piece of paper with coffee and then just roll it up and write on it so it looks like parchment. Tie it with a little string. About 10 minutes of work. It's just so exciting. Like, oh, I found an ancient scroll. Um, and it can be really fun. And there's lots of little stuff. I've made potions for players on holiday events out of uh, alcohol and food coloring. Which don't do that if you're not old enough to drink alcohol.
I mean, I mean, I don't normally go that crazy, but what I do for my games is I have these little tiny metal tokens, and on one side there's just a sheep, and I just use those as my inspiration tokens. Ah, you get a point of inspiration. I flick them the coin, and they
Oh, that's
love
really
that.
good.
It's excellent. I mean, I've lost a lot of those coins over the years because people just kept their inspiration, but that's not the point. The point is, it feels good to get a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I feel like you could do a lot of other stuff that I personally haven't done, but have like
Oh yeah,
considered doing.
minis,
Um,
terrain, there's everything.
oh, yeah, I mean minis and terrain. Like you could you could spend your life on minis and terrain if you so
Yeah.
desired. Um, Jeremy's starting to build up a pretty impressive mini collection.
Eh,
I
too
mean,
many. Not enough.
from my perspective, it's very impressive.
There's a lot of
Um,
many.
I have um, minis that I obtained from playing the game HeroScape back in the day, and that's about it. A couple other little guys, but um, yeah, that's about. I don't know. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say on this topic, Jeremy?
I think that's about where we kind of come to the end for music. We don't really have anything in the Ask Pete and Jeremy channel, so I think in terms of the normal show, that's kind of where we end for today. Um, Thank you all for watching, but we're not quite done
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we're gonna talk a little bit about what we're gonna do in the future with D&D time. Right? What is in store in 2019? Um,
indeed.
so I think the first obvious one is Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Every other Sunday here on this channel, we're going to be running that campaign. I'm really stoked. I love this party. I think it's going to be a really fun
I think so
campaign.
too.
It's going to be I know it's going to be really good. I'm very excited for it. I'm so ready. It's going to be great. Um,
I'm really into tech.
yeah, I
Um,
know. We've got some really awesome characters in
yeah,
this.
some cool interactions that we built up in that session zero. I
Absolutely.
definitely recommend if and you didn't get a chance to watch it, that you check out that. Or I guess even if you don't watch session zero, you definitely tune in for the first session because that's when I assume stuff will be popping off. I don't know anything about Dragon Deep Water Heist, which is what I always will call it forever now. Uh, Jeremy, because you said Dragon Deep Water Heist in that one
Yeah.
adventure, it is now
Oh,
the
I know.
name
I
of the
got
thing
you.
for me. It's just that's just it forever for Pete.
Well,
We're
get
playing.
wrecked, Pete.
I don't know. I like it
That's all I
better.
got.
I like the idea of stealing water. Um, the Dragon Deep Water Heist is going to be an absolute blast, and I recommend that y'all tune in and watch it. But that's not all we got going on. I mean, Pete and Jeremy's D&D time also is going to have some pretty crazy stuff happening very soon. We are
And
on
we actually mean it.
uh, yeah. Do we ever not mean it?
Well, I mean, that's fair. But like,
I
there's actual stuff.
yeah, there's gonna be some stuff happening. The legend tier boss battle is gonna be coming up pretty soon, which
Hmm.
will be a trip, and I'm terrified that it's so close, and also very
Oh yeah.
excited about it. But we also have the new shop. Jeremy, do you want to talk about the new shop?
Yeah, Bartholomew's shop has been completely renovated uh, in the new year. It's really cool. The bag has been completely reorganized and redefined. People have a lot better odds of getting better. Well, you just have even odds of getting stuff. Totally transparent, so you know what roles get you what. It's
Yep.
all on the website, which is just great. We've also made 2 other small changes in the shop. I think that's it. Potions are now technically just a little cheaper for the better potions. Um,
Mhm.
you buy them in packs of 4, 3, or 2 now,
Yeah.
and their
No longer
value
the
is a little better.
individuals.
They are
Uh,
just strictly cheaper. And we also have added charms to Bartholomew's shop.
mm,
Charms are a cool thing you can get to make your glamored weapons into mini Bartholomew's Choice kind of things, like a build your own customizable power up weapon and armor and stuff. It's pretty neat. I really like them. I hope you do too.
yeah. You'll be seeing more and more charms over time, as
Absolutely.
we'll be rotating kind of charms in and out of the shop, and we're also kind of have some plans for uh, various holiday charms and things associated with seasons as they come up, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is going to be a lot of fun, and it'll be kind of you must collect them all special edition. Limited edition. It'll be like the TF2 of D&D time. I'm just joking. They will not be like festive. They will not be like festive guns, but they will be collectible, and I think that's going to be a blast.
Wait, ship
Personally,
my charm of festive guns. Should I not put that one in there?
your charm of festive guns, I
Yeah.
think that's actually going to be in there before any holiday. That's just like a
Oh,
regular
okay.
charm. But actually, when we get the list of charms, so we can collect them all, maybe someday we'll do that. Not yet, for sure. We definitely won't reveal a list of charms until the charms are revealed that they exist. But maybe we'll create
Agreed.
a list of ones that have existed in the past for you guys to look at some point. If that's something that you
We'll
guys would be interested
see.
in.
Maybe.
That's why yeah, that's a hard asterisk on that. I don't know if I was clear enough, but that is a not a guarantee at all. But maybe we'll do that. And what else, Jeremy? What else is new in the shop? Oh, well, trading is back.
Oh yeah, trading is back. If you want to trade your stuff in D&D time, you can. Currently, the only stuff you can't trade is Bartholomew's Choice, and that's because don't you dare. Um, but otherwise, you can trade items now. There is a fee of
I would
100
be
Barth.
so mad.
I'd be so mad. There's a fee of 100 Bartholomew bucks per person in the trades. It's a little pricey to trade, so make your trades big. Um, yeah, you can read all about that on our website, dndtime.stream. And yeah, I hope that folks find some good uses for the trading. I hope
Yeah,
people like it.
I think so. I think people will. I think we've kind of done a better job setting it up this time, and
Yeah,
I think we both
a lot
believe
less
it's
prone to
gonna work.
abuse, a lot
Yep.
more. Yeah,
Um, Slightly more restrictive than it used to be, but overall that's going to be really healthy for I think the trading community. And there will
yeah,
be some
exactly.
rules, so before you go and like start talking trades, um do we have our kind of trading rules posted yet on
Yeah,
the
they're
great,
all on the website.
very good. Make sure you review those and kind of take a look at what the conditions on that are. um
Absolutely.
I am I'm very excited to see people starting to go back, because very much when we originally designed Bartholomew's Bag, a lot of Bartholomew's Big Bag Bonanza was designed with the
With
assumption that
trading.
players would be
Yeah.
able to trade, and since we removed trading, it hasn't worked quite as well as it used to. So it's going to definitely improve that kind of situation now that it's back. We're both really happy with it. And
Yeah.
anything else on the shop? I feel like we're forgetting one more big thing.
I don't think so.
Fair, fair enough.
I think that's it.
Um,
So, in the upcoming year, what do people have to expect? What are they? What can people expect to see out of D&D time in the next 12 months?
um, okay, well, that's a great question, Jeremy, and the answer to it is, well, you're gonna see uh, Dungeon Deep Water Dragon. I've completely lost control over my ability to say the name of that thing. Water Deep Dragon Heist is the name of the thing that you'll be able to see. There's going to be that. We're going to be continuing talks. We're going to be continuing Pete and Jeremy's D&D time as normal. There may be some other changes in Pete and Jeremy's D&D time as we move forward that we can't get into now. But we will see as kind of time unfolds on that. We definitely want to include some more holiday events. So we're going to be doing a lot more of those. We're going to be continuing D&D Time Brews for the time being. However, as we move forward, we are hoping to do, just in general, as a rule of thumb, a lot more kind of polished content in terms of running campaigns and running games with consistent and overarching stories and regular sort of casts.
Mm-hmm.
So without naming any kind of specific details, I know that Jeremy has other plans for campaigns that he wants to run, homebrew campaigns. I know that I personally have too many to choose of things that I would like to run, as is every DM's curse and joy to
Curse
have.
and blessing.
Yeah, curse and blessing. Um, and we're both really excited. We've talked about possibilities of some other formats, and again, these are all like, there's some hypotheticals, and we're not going to state any timelines on some of the stuff we have planned here. But I know one of the things that I have always really wanted to do is have a D&D Time podcast, something that could be listened to out of the normal sort of kind of confines of having to log on and schedule for the streams every night. And something that's a little bit more produced. So maybe that's something that you will also see coming down the pike in the next year as well. And then Tuesdays, I'm going to be going back to every other Tuesday doing some type of solo stream. And that's going to be a mix of either D&D Time Worlds in a new format for anyone who tuned into Worlds. It was very fun, and we built a great world by the name of Empyreon, and then our dear friends tore it down right at the end there. But it was
They brought it into this world, they took it out.
Indeed they did. And aside from that, I also have plans to do some music creation stuff on those Tuesdays as well, which might be what I start with. It'll either be that, or we'll go back into Worlds in kind of a new format, either the upcoming Tuesday or the next Tuesday, which will be announced in our schedule. But that'll be getting started again real soon, as I mentioned to Shiva at the beginning. Jeremy, do you got any other plans?
Yeah, I mean, I have D&D Time Behind the Screens, which is not going to be every Saturday. I might do an every other Saturday kind of vibe, like Pete is doing with Tuesdays, or I might just do the Tuesdays Pete's not doing, so that you guys can have a kind of consistent schedule. We're gonna come up with that. Again, I need to figure out my schedule a little bit more before I hard commit, but expect a solo Jeremy stream as well. Probably in the next month or so, starting up for
I was going to ask you about that. Future. I was curious if you were planning on keeping up behind the screen. Are you?
Yeah, it'll be different. It'll be very different. I think in the new iteration, it's going to be a lot less focused than previously. Previously, it was Jeremy does a specific thing, and now it's going to be Jeremy does whatever the hell Jeremy damn well pleases. So there's going to be probably a lot of homebrew stuff, a lot of talking and discussion about certain classes and things like that. Like, I've got a lot of feels about the Ranger, and I want to talk about the Ranger, and I want to brew my own Ranger, and that is just going to take time, and it's going to be something that I think will be fun, hopefully, or engaging to do with you guys on stream. So, yeah.
If it's on Tuesday, I'm also I can just watch it now, because I'm no longer barred by the fact that you're designing an adventure for something I'm going to play in.
Oh, I got a comment real quick. We didn't mention this during the show because I forgot. But talking about using music, we have over 628 unique tracks for D&D Time.
Damn!
Just so that people are aware.
Know it was quite that high.
Yeah, in our musical catalog.
We don't use.
We use 628? No.
But we have that. We have that many.
It's a lot of music.
Yeah, we will be listening. It's all basically, if it's a classical piece, that's old.
And you only ever use 6. Exactly, Farfel. Exactly.
We do better than 6. Cut us some slack, but at least 8.
And pretty 8.5. I don't know what the half one is, but
yeah, maybe.
The half was one we used once, but then the stream crashed. So, anywho, yeah. So that's pretty much, I think, where we're at in the new year. There's going to be more produced content, probably some more campaigns. if not at the same time as Dragon Deep
Yes,
Water Heist, it'll
at least.
be it'll maybe come after.
Yeah, at least once Waterdeep Dragon Heist is finished,
Mhm.
another campaign will take its place in some form or another.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a continuation. Maybe it'll be a new thing entirely. We'll play it by ear when we're there. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this new year. I'm very optimistic.
Me as
I think
well.
it's gonna be
Me as
good.
well. I don't
So
know. That's about it. It's a short
yeah,
talks tonight, but yeah, we gotta ease back into it.
when you do campaigns, can you allow people who are not normally in the Sunday stuff in? That is a big question, V Bunny, and I don't think it's something I can really answer. A lot of what we want to do with these campaigns, we want to make a produced, high quality thing for people that we know what we're doing with. If we do bring people from DnDTime in, it'll probably be some of our much older folk. Um, like I'm talking like the Alexes who've been here since literally the first game.
Yeah,
Um,
indeed, the first game.
but even that, it's just I can't tell you until we're there, right?
Indeed,
Um,
and
maybe
it's
maybe we'll bring
possible,
people in.
but on the whole, it's about kind of having that having those players that, for one thing, a lot of the reason why Jeremy and I are running this is because this is just our gaming group that we play with, and
Yeah,
we're just really excited to like play a game with our gaming group consistently. 'Cause it's been a long time since we've done that. So right now, that is kind of where we're at on it.
yeah, precisely. I mean, I've got 2 or 3 other gaming groups that I just haven't played with in like a year,
Yeah,
which is
I feel
uh,
that, my man.
it's a hard
Um,
feel. Another question in the chat, Sheba's asking, on Friday, is everyone allowed to shop or only people who are playing that week? And I think that is a very easy question to answer. Pete, you want me to handle it?
yeah, please do.
Yeah, the answer is I don't know.
Yeah,
If
as
we're
my answer would have
going,
been too.
if we're making good time, and we actually keep to 3 1-hour sessions, or close to that, and we've got time left at the end, and Pete and I both aren't dead inside, yeah, absolutely, we'll let other people shop.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just a play by ear kind of thing.
exactly. But I don't want to make that promise uh, right now. So, uh,
The answer, I
yeah.
guess, I would say is maybe on the side of probably, but not quite probably.
Yeah, it's like almost probably, but it's not.
Yeah, it's
Because
somewhere
it's
in
just
between
like
maybe
you
and
just
probably.
you can't, you want to say probably, but you can't trust yourself to say probably. You
And
don't like really believe it, but you want to. That's what this is.
that's exactly where I'm at 52%. Yeah, exactly.
Beautifully
52,
said, Lance. Beautifully said.
52%. That's very funny. Uh, uh, and as one final note, before we wrap up, for anyone following the narrative of cool Minecraft stream.jpg, Minecraft is up and running again. It's ready to go. Be prepared for that.
There you have
That's
it,
all.
folks.
That's all I have to say about that stream. And I'm ready to wrap up. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Thank you all for the cool Minecraft deleted link. Yeah. Thank you all very much for tuning in. We love you all very much. Thank you for support and hanging out and talking about music and just D&D time. Just talking about ourselves today. We're very self-indulgent today.
Just a
Bye.
quick note, by the way, about Friday before we leave. Some of the biggest sign-up numbers we've had in the last 6 months are for this Friday's game of D&D time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you don't get in, it's all good. We'll get you next week. Just drop by. Make sure you're watching to earn those points. If you don't watch and you don't earn points, you're probably not going to get in next week either. But yeah, stop by, watch points, watch, get points, play in D&D time.
Get points, get money.
It's crazy competitive this week. So.
Very very competitive week. Yeah, everyone's off of their holidays. They're all done. They've made their New Year's resolutions not to engage in any vices and are channeling their energies into
play in
D&Ds.
D&D time this year. I will do no bad in the world. Only play D&D time.
All right, I'm Pete.
I'm Jeremy.
And this is DnDTime Talks.
Talks.
Okay, good night, everyone.